it just feels like my life was blipped by, and it hasn't really. You know, I had a really good job that I liked during that time, which I had to, you know, leave when I started getting treatment for alcoholism, because it was GM of a cocktail bar. You know, so I can't really do that as an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But you know, I've done, you know, so I did all that. That was great. You know, I was working with my best friend who, you know, was the overall GM, and he was fantastic. And we pulled that from like the ground up and like turned it into a completely new place. You know, the people were coming from out of town to get our cocktails and stuff, which was dope. But yeah, I had to leave. I'm fucking going off on one. Oh well.
Oh, you're good, dude.
left to get treatment. You know, I got my, you know, and it was really difficult because I don't have any money. Mm-hmm. You know, and it cost me like 30 grand to go to rehab for free. Mm-hmm. So you go to one of these services, you know, they'll send you there, but you have to go through a lot of stuff. And that stuff was about 6+ months of going to, you know, groups and doing, you know, all the psychological stuff beforehand. And like, they don't get you to stop drinking there. They're like, we want you to level out your drinking. We want you to,
taper it off type of thing.
Yeah, it's like as long as you're drinking the same amount, that's all we want. Even if that's a fucking full bottle, even if that's a full bottle of vodka a day, as long as it's the same amount. So doing that for a while, it was really pretty hard to get my fucking head around. It was a really fucking awful period of my life, can't lie. You don't know what addiction's like until you're addicted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with something like alcohol, because in your head you're like, that's just that's just part of society, you know. It's not like I'm doing heroin.
Oh, you buy it at the grocery store. Yeah,
it's everywhere. Exactly. You know, it's everywhere, and everywhere you go to, right? There's even in your own family, like you go somewhere in your family, you're trying to stop drinking, like people, hey, drink that. It's kind of a social, just everybody does it type thing, and when you say like, hey, I'm going to stop drinking, usually because if you say I'm going to stop heroin, everybody's going to be like, yeah, stop that. If you say I'm going to stop alcohol, it feels like so many people are just like, why? I mean, like, come on. Like, it's
that's abnormal to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to justify yourself of just like, it was a problem. I don't want to, you know, like I'm at this point where I don't really, to be honest, I don't really drink. I don't see the interest. So like, and I have to explain every time. Like, oh, you're the, and you know, why? Yeah, but it kind of an argument, like what? So I feel like this makes it kind of like way more difficult in a way because it's so present and accepted and everywhere that you have to just like deal with that all the time. And it adds an extra layer of, you know, difficulty, I think.
For sure. And they made that very clear. Like, they were like, this is one of the hardest drugs to get off. Like, unfortunately, and it was for that exact reason what you said. But yeah, it went like, obviously I knew I drank too much. Like, I've always drank too much. Like, I know now it's because I'm fucking real mentally ill and did not have the correct medication for it when I was a kid. But like beyond that, I always drank too much, and I couldn't see that what I was doing was abnormal. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were just saying then, like, it's abnormal to not drink around people. Well, yeah, normal people that aren't like this. Because the amount that I was drinking was way too much, and it was way too fast. That was the thing. Like, so people would always say, it just, like, I'd get fucking blackout battered, and like my best friend, he said to me quite recently, he was like, when right towards the end of me, you know, being fucking right in the thick of it, is like, you are my favorite person in the world when you were sober, and you were my least favorite person when you were pissed. You know, like, that really got to me.
That says a lot.
Like, because I like to think that I'm a nice person, that I'm quite pleasant to be around, and, you know, that I like to listen to people. You seem all right
outside looking in, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd get off my nut, and just, it's not that I was violent. Do you know what I mean? I've never been in a fight in my life. I've never hit anybody. But I was like a fucking weird, just nasty dickhead. And like, it was like Jacqueline Hyde, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I can't just say, oh, you know, well, it was the alcohol. No, because it was me that drank it. And it's me that knew that's what I'd get like and did it anyway. So it's absolutely my fault. But, you know, so I found out only last year after the idea of it never having entered my head even once, mainly because I'm from a time where people didn't have this, you didn't talk about it because it just wasn't real. With ADHD, and quite possibly autism as well. There's a huge overlap of symptoms and stuff.
Yeah.
I've never even thought about it until one of my mates and my fiance, she was like, you exhibit quite a lot of the bits. I was like, I'm all right, cool. And my mate, in fact, it was Aaron. He was like, I've been doing it for a while, taking the medication. He was like, and I'm, doing real good. He's a completely different person to who he was when we started back then, completely different. And for the better as well. And he was like, just go on. I was like, at the time I had a bit of money saved up and I was like, all right, I'll, this might be for the best. And it was like, when you start taking the medication, it's like your brain puts glasses on for the first time.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like,
yeah, that's when you realize, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like,
So
this is what normal is supposed to be like.
Yeah, exactly.
Normal
so I
is,
got the quite lengthy and expensive process of getting the diagnosis, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I'd never even thought of this. It's like, it's not like I'd self-diagnosed or anything. I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
And without getting too much into that, like one of the things about people that have that is substance abuse, and it's because of your brain constantly trying to find the dopamine that it isn't producing itself like a normal person does. So, I mean, it was good in that, like it helped explain a lot of things about why I'm the way that I am. But again, it's not an excuse that you can use.
No, for sure.
To just keep doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's
when the real work starts, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, right, you're gonna have to fucking do something about this, because you're either gonna lose everybody, you're gonna die, or you're gonna kill somebody else, and nobody else deserves to die because of your fucking alcohol addiction. So I did this. Yeah, and I went, and it was long. I was drinking, and it was like, you really got to see how bad it was. It was like, when you look, I couldn't go past booze without drinking it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or like if I was in a store, I couldn't not get it, and I was hiding it. Do you know what I mean? Like you hear that quite often. We'll hide it because we're so ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're functional too, so people don't even notice even when you are drunk, type of thing.
Exactly.
Or at least you think so.
My parents were like pulling bottles of vodka out for months after I got sober, in places that I'd hidden them. And I was drinking so much. I was like, just grabbing, but like the big fucking handles and chugging it so much until my body started rejecting it. And I was like, right, cool. You can just go about your day now. And the scary thing about it is it's never like you're fighting against it and there's this big horrible like monster that's like, no, you're going to do this, I'm going to make you do it. And it's like twisting your arms to do it and stuff. You want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard to stop, because it's not anything you're fighting against, it's you. And you're like, well, I don't want to not do it, so I'm just going to do it. But then you realize that isn't you. That is the receptors that the alcohol has created. And like now, it's been 7 months now, and I'm out and I walk past.
Congratulations, by the way. I just wanted to say. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh,
yeah,
I know. It's just the first steps, right? But it is a big undertaking, right?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. But yeah, like I walk past booze now in like the shop or whatever, and it's not a huge thing, but you get a little pang, like a little pang of fear. Because like when I first came out, I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna drink. It's all been a waste. But it wasn't what I thought was I was experiencing was the desire to drink, but I wasn't. I was experiencing the fear of wanting to drink. And once I got my head around that, it got better. Like the first 2 months out of it were fucking horrible. It was like crippling anxiety. I developed like really severe anxiety disorder when I was at university, and for people that don't know, like that ain't just like being anxious. That is like the baseline of your mind is terror. It's constant terror. I've been on medication for that for 12 years. And if I don't take it for 3 days, like, because the problem is that fear warps reality is something I've noticed, is that it'll start to trick you into believing things that aren't real. It's fucked anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I got past that. It was sick, like, because even then my brain was like, you know what, I'd solve this if you got battered. And I just had to be like, what the fuck would that solve?
Yeah.
Like, and as soon as I got, because I remember one of the things I think back to all the time, I was journaling whilst I was there, and that was the best thing I could have done, because it's like, once you start writing, you see
you can go back to it, you see the truth.
Yourself.
Yeah,
like you externalize it, and it was, I'm honestly, it was the best thing I could have done. And one of the things that I think about in there is, because there's loads of things that are just little bits, that I wrote down, just little bits. This was one of them, and it was, what is that buzz in your brain worth? Is it worth everything that it'll take from you? Then is it worth everything it'll take from those that you love? And I just think about that every time, and it still sends like a chill down my spine. Once I got my head around that, like, I walk past these booze now, and this tiny little just like beep of fear, and it's like, there's nothing to be scared of. It's just strange that there was once a point where I would not have been able to stop myself from reaching out and taking it, and that isn't there anymore. Because internally, I don't feel different. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the exact same person, but this compulsion isn't there anymore. And that's, like, it's fantastic, obviously, that I don't have that, but it's scary that exists. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Or the thought that maybe you could go back to that, or anything, I get
that. Because obviously
the bargaining.
They say that it's a regressive illness, not regressive. People tend to go back to it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, so it is scary.
I don't want to ask something to, like, let me know if it's too personal, but I'm just curious about something. Usually when you do a big change like that, you also see kind of a big change in your, people around you, right? Like your circle change a little bit. Did you see like a big change like that, or you already kind of had a small circle, just stay like that?
I already had a small circle. When I started my treatment, I'd been living in York, the original York, for 6 years at that point, and I had to. When I left my job, I had to come home. I'm still home at the minute. I live with my parents, just because I had to put everything into getting sober, which is fine. I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I had to do. I'd be dead otherwise.
You should be proud of doing that. Actually, if I'm honest,
a lot of people wouldn't do it, right? Wouldn't take that sacrifice, right?
Yeah. It's done it again. So what was the original question? Sorry.
About your circle, people around you, if you saw like a big change.
That was it. Yeah. Because I had to come back, I obviously wasn't in like the hospitality circle anymore. I was, when I first moved to York, that was, I still look at those times really fondly, because it's a high intensity job. We work at like a Michelin star restaurant. So the pressure's on all the time. But everybody there was friends. It was a huge group of friends. And then all the other bars of the restaurants is friends. So it was great. And when everyone's drinking, you don't really realize how much you're drinking. You know what I mean? And that, that dispersed over years until, it was just loads of people moved to Australia, as, people like to do these days, or, down to London and stuff, until there wasn't really that much, much of a group left. But I was still drinking at that level. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when I came back, it's all like, obviously I see the guys from Black Tongue and, my friends that, I've been friends with since we were in school, and some of those pie charts have crossed each other, which is nice. So my circle was always small, and that hasn't changed much, because they've all been like super supportive, which has been really, really good.
That's awesome to hear, because sometimes, for certain people, it's quite the opposite, right? Like they go and then they realize, oh my God, like most people around, it was maybe not what they think. So it really meant that you had already like your circle. It was the right circle. It was everything. You had good people around. It was just you dealing with other stuff and you needed to fix it. So it's cool to hear, basically, because and not to make you feel bad or anything, but like it's also difficult for people around when you go through stuff like that. You need to deal with it. Like they need to, you know, to show support. So that you don't always know what to say, you don't always know how to be there. So it's cool to hear that you have amazing people around, you know, who supported
thank you.
through all that.
I wouldn't have got very far without my family and friends. That's for sure. Like, you know, I like telling people my success story, especially if they're struggling. But I also understand that, like, most people that are in this boat don't have the things that I'm so lucky to have. But, you know, I can't help that. So I just have to be as thankful as possible, you know, for those things. But yeah, I'm very lucky.